Mike Zeroh one
can't handle the truth.
You're a cheat and a swindler. That's what you are. How can you do a thing like this?
I am authorized to assure you these rumors are based on hysteria and are absolutely false. I repeat, these rumors are absolutely false.
Now, you guys may remember a couple of months ago hearing that she could very well be leaving in September of 2018, or should I say, announcing her successor, who would actually be replacing her as president of LucasFilm. Now, when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy, a lot of people, a lot of you guys and Star Wars fans around the world have been wondering as to what's happening with Kathleen Kennedy. We've been hearing a lot about her these past couple of weeks. About what's happening behind the scenes over at Disney and Lucasfilm. Things ranging all the way from her quite possibly announcing her successor this fall of 2018, or things ranging all the way from Kathleen Kennedy getting fired after such and such. It's explained that Bob Chapek is reshaping Lucasfilm as we speak and is said to have a plan to fire Kathleen Kennedy sometime in 2021.
Liar!
Before her contract is said to come to an end, and that Bob Chapek already has 3 candidates to take over Kathleen Kennedy.
What?
As president of Lucasfilm.
Give me the line again. Quickly, while it's fresh in my mind.
Bob Chapek already has 3 candidates to take over Kathleen Kennedy as president of Lucasfilm. Now, of course, Disney and Lucasfilm have other candidates that they are considering. However, Favreau is said to be at the top of the list to replace Kathleen Kennedy. Though Kennedy no longer has any form of creative control over the new Star Wars universe.
You have no power here.
She only has creative control over one TV show, which is the Leslie Headland Star Wars TV series for Disney+. Now, it's noted that currently Bob Chapek and Iger have been going over their ideas for candidates to replace Kathleen Kennedy sometime in late 2020.
Liar!
And that now they are actually in full negotiations of bringing in Jon Favreau on board to take over Kennedy. Now, of course, Disney and Lucasfilm have other candidates that they are considering. However, Favreau is said to be at the top of the list to replace Kathleen Kennedy.
Move along. Move along.
Now, it's described that currently Chapek is making major decisions on how the future should be handled, where one major plan by Bob Chapek is to involve George Lucas in a temporary takeover of Kathleen Kennedy.
What?
When?
Sometime in the beginning of 2021.
Liar!
To replace Kathleen Kennedy before they make the final decision on the permanent decision of who will be the new president of Lucasfilm.
One week later.
Currently, Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy has little to no creative power after she was fired from the animated TV series and only left with the Leslie Headland Star Wars TV show. However, it's described that one major decision by Disney's CEO Bob Chapek is that he has actually made the decision to allow George Lucas to replace Kathleen Kennedy as the president of Lucasfilm for a temporary time in a very unique fashion. It's described that Chapek made this decision that will be, of course, around and begin to be made around February of 2021 next year. However, it's noted that Bob Chapek has a plan in place to replace Kathleen Kennedy next year before she departs, not only, of course, if George Lucas is set temporarily to take over Lucasfilm, that is all set and ready to happen in mid-2021.
Bullshit.
But that also Jon Favreau is described to be Chapek's first pick to become the new president of Lucasfilm after Lucas serves his temporary time as the president of Lucasfilm. Moving on.
Move along.
Jon Favreau is indeed described to have already had discussions with Chapek about this, and is very interested as long as he is able to handle the Star Wars lore and projects on the side as well. However, Chapek also has 2 other candidates in the pipeline if Jon Favreau does not end up working out.
Remember this?
However, in a recent interview, Gina Carano went on to respond to her views of coming back to Star Wars. Basically, the deal was made between John, Dave, and the higher-ups over at Disney of bringing back Carano. That's pretty much set in place and being finalized, and will be finalized by this September. There is going to be a finalization of this plan for Gina Carano to come back by the end of August, specifically toward, of course, the August 20s, right around that time frame. We do know that John and Dave had their final meeting with Disney back in May, late May, with, of course, the higher-ups over at Disney on Gina Carano's return and exactly how they could go about doing that. We discussed this before in the past, that by the end of August, everything's going to be finalized, and then it's all going to come down to Gina Carano making that ultimate decision by, of course, this upcoming September. In the meantime, separately from all of this, Gina Carano is said to be taking part in a major talk show by this September that will reveal more about what happened between herself and Lucasfilm. It's unclear if this will be televised or something of the likes of a podcast, like Joe Rogan, for example. Now, in addition to this, Gina Carano is set to unveil more about her experience with Lucasfilm by the end of February on a major show where she will have a special interview where it's unclear who this will be at this time. To be honest, I think it could be Joe Rogan, it could be anybody around those lines, but the thing about It's described that Bob Chapek is planning to let go of Kathleen Kennedy early,
Liar!
before her contract ends, in order to insert George Lucas to temporarily serve as the president of Lucasfilm by the beginning of the 3rd quarter of this year. That this major plan is for creator George Lucas to become the president of Lucasfilm during the 2nd quarter of 2022 in a very unique way for the fans to witness. Now, one thing that Disney has in store that is described to be very effective and will make the fans happy is that Disney is pushing for George Lucas to take over Lucasfilm temporarily this year to handle the business end of Star Wars by the beginning of the fall of 2022. So let me just stop right here for a second. You guys may recall that we talked about this lightly a couple of months ago toward the tail end of 2021, and a lot of that was having, you know, a lot of brick walls going against it because a lot of the higher-ups over at Disney, many of the board members began to really want to keep Kathleen Kennedy in store over at Lucasfilm. So moving on beyond all of this, Bob Chapek made it clear to, of course, the board that Kathleen Kennedy should be replaced with somebody that has great knowledge of both the Star Wars brand and the Marvel brand, and of course that they already have multiple candidates in store to replace Kathleen Kennedy. Now, the higher-ups already agreed to this plan to let go of Kathleen Kennedy by the end of this year that would go into full effect by early 2023, where they plan to have creator George Lucas fill in as the new president of Lucasfilm, temporarily speaking, before the permanent solution fills in for the role. So with that being said, however, all right, Disney is actually looking at Jon Favreau as the permanent solution. However, Jon Favreau is described to be very conflicted about all of this and about this offer, as he enjoys writing Star Wars stories for the fans and keeping on the creative side of things. It's something that Favreau will have to decide on by late 2022 before the finalized plans come into play with Kathleen Kennedy. Now, as for Lucas becoming president for months throughout 2023, Lucas has already been informed by Bob Chapek about their plan to let go of Kennedy. Kennedy also knows all about this plan by Disney in order to bring in George Lucas to rework Lucasfilm. It's something that Kathleen Kennedy is not taking lightly and has even been brought this up to the Disney higher-ups, believe it or not, to actually kind of prevent all of this from happening. So this is not all that surprising.